All right, good afternoon. We'll go ahead and call to order the regular meeting of the City of Murfreesboro Board of Zoning Appeals for February 22nd, 2012. First, we need to recognize the passing of one of our former members and chairman, Mr. Bill Nelms. Mr. Nelms passed away on January 17, 2012. He was a dear and valuable member of the Board of Zoning Appeals. In fact, he served, I think, a total of 10 years, from 1994 to 1998, and then again from 2001 to 2007. In fact, he chaired the Board of Zoning Appeals for 7 of those 10 years. And so we just want to take a moment to recognize Mr. Nelms and also his passing. He left a wonderful family here in Murfreesboro, but we certainly will miss Mr. Nelms. All right. We'll now proceed with some of our regular business. First item on the agenda is the consideration for the consideration of the minutes for the regular meeting on January 25th, 2012. Those minutes were included with our agenda materials. Are there any changes to those minutes? If not, those minutes will stand approved as presented. And we'll move on to new business. First application is Z12002 by Mr. Walter Scott Bennett, requesting a 1.7-foot variance from the minimum required 12.5-foot side building setback. And this is for principal structures in a residential single-family RS-15 zone. The variance request would allow the existing principal structure at 3048 Sulphur Springs Road, which encroaches into the minimum required side building setback, to remain in its current location. All right, Mr. Blum, if you'd review that application for us, please.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Chairman Rogers. And good afternoon, Chairman Rogers and members of the Board of Zoning Appeals. The first item, as you mentioned, is a variance request at 3048 Sulphur Springs Road. The property is developed as a single-family residential lot and is zoned RS-15. The property may look familiar to some of you. Back in 2007, Mr. Bennett was before the Board of Zoning Appeals for a special use permit for an accessory apartment. Back in 2007, he converted the existing garage into an accessory apartment for his mother-in-law and then built a garage addition onto the back of his house to replace that the original garage, which was converted into the accessory apartment. Mr. Bennett miscalculated where the side property line is, and this property is a corner lot on the corner of Sulphur Springs Road and Breckenridge. And he actually, the garage addition encroaches into the side setback along the east property line by 1.7 feet. It's 12.5-foot side setback, and the garage addition is 10.8 feet away from the east side property line. And I'll show you the aerial photograph on the map here. And you can tell that the property lines drawn on the aerial photograph are not survey accurate because it actually shows the property line running through the building. But this is Mr. Bennett's house as it fronts on Sulphur Springs Road and also on Breckenridge Drive. This is the garage addition that was built in 2007 that encroaches into that side setback along the eastern property line. Now, this first came to our attention when a neighboring property owner had surveyed the property, and Mr. Bennett actually had an accessory building, a detached accessory building that was encroaching over the east side property line. So staff notified Mr. Bennett that he had several issues that he needed to take care of. One, that his detached accessory building was encroaching over the east side property line, and two, that his garage addition was actually encroaching into the side setback. Here is the survey of the property to the east. This is the addition that was constructed. And you'll notice that on the survey, and this was included in your materials, it's 10.8 feet off of that side property line. and this existing detached accessory structure did encroach over the property line. He actually shifted the detached accessory structure over, which it used to be right here when he built the garage addition. One of the things that staff asked Mr. Bennett to do before today's meeting was to bring this structure, the detached storage building, into compliance with the setback requirements prior to today's meeting. And the planning and building and code staffs did go out to the property yesterday afternoon, and we determined that Mr. Bennett had moved that detached building and brought it into compliance. So the only zoning violation left on the property is the existing attached garage that he built in 2007 that encroaches into that side setback. In Mr. Bennett's letter, he basically says that it was just a miscalculation on his part, that there is no other reason for the encroachment other than that he just miscalculated where the property line was located. He does mention that it's only a corner of the building that encroaches into that 12.5-foot side setback, and he estimates it to be about 3 square feet that's encroaching into that setback. The distance it encroaches is 1.7 feet, but overall he estimates it to be about a 3 square foot encroachment into that setback. And I'll show you some photographs of the property. This is the front of the house as it faces Sulphur Springs Road. This is the former garage. This was the original garage that was converted into a mother-in-law apartment back in 2007. This is the garage addition in question that encroached. There's this corner right here that encroaches into that side setback. This is the detached building which he relocated in between the time that I took these photographs and today's meeting in order to be in compliance. It actually went over that side property line by 2.9 feet. Here's the stake. The old fence of the neighbor's property was not located on the property line, and the actual property line, which would have been the neighbor's rear property line and Mr. Bennett's property line, went kind of like through that building right there. As I mentioned, that building has been pushed back, but this building, this corner here, still remains encroaching into that side setback by 1.7 feet. With that being said, I'll be happy to answer any questions. Mr. Bennett also is here if you have any questions for him.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Blomley. Questions for Mr. Blomley?
Matthew, what constitutes something being rear versus side?
Sure. Being that this is a corner lot, the zoning ordinance, if we can put up the aerial photo, corner lots in single-family residential zoning districts have 2 front property lines and 2 side property lines. And even though this has just minimal frontage on Breckenridge, it does have frontage on Breckenridge. And so it's got 2 front lot lines, the one that goes along Sulphur Springs and the one that goes along Breckenridge, and then 2 side lot lines, which would be the eastern property line and the northern property line. So instead of having a rear setback, he has a side setback along the eastern property line because that would be considered a side property line.
Thank you.
Matthew, did we, in 2007, did the board, I think that was one of my first meetings maybe, it seemed like I remember this property. Anyway, did we require a surveyor to set these boundaries or not? Do you recall? Did you look back at that, or?
We did not, because he was not asking for a variance at that time. He was just asking for, his request pertained only to the original garage that he was converting into the
So there was
mother-in-law
no
apartment.
application regarding this garage addition?
That's correct.
Okay. But it was permitted and all, but it didn't come through us?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, he did obtain a building permit for the garage addition before it was constructed.
Oh, wait, now, you had me all the way up until just that last comment right there. In 2007, the permit application was for a special use permit in order to have this apartment, right?
Right. The special use permit was to have the accessory apartment in the original garage.
And there was no new construction increasing the footprint of the existing house.
Well, he pulled a building permit for the garage addition, but that was not something that at that time needed to go to the Board of Zoning Appeals because it was not when he was issued the building permit. There appeared to be no need at that time for a setback variance when the building permit was issued.
Okay, and again, there was no increase in 2007, no increase to the footprint of the house, right?
No, there was, because he was this area here is the original garage. Simultaneous with the conversion of that original garage into the mother-in-law apartment back in 2007, he built this garage because his garage was displaced from its original location. He built a garage to replace the one that was being converted into the mother-in-law apartment.
Okay.
But the garage was not part of his application to us. All
That's
we
correct.
considered was the conversion of the garage into an apartment accessory to the principal structure.
That's correct.
So when the application was made, then, and you said at that time it didn't require BZA approval for the garage addition because it wasn't shown to be built in the setback.
That's correct.
So how did it end up getting built in the setback? Obviously, the plans didn't show that. So was it missed in the permitting process, or was it just built not according to plan?
Well, I think that when someone comes in for a building permit, we don't require a plot plan drawn to scale. It's good to have, but it's not required. So when someone comes in for their building permit, they're given the setbacks, and it's incumbent upon them to meet those setbacks. And in Mr. Bennett's efforts to meet those setbacks, he made some miscalculations on where the property line was located. And so, and thus we find ourselves here today kind of retroactively seeking a variance after the fact.
Okay. I have seen heavy equipment on this property before. Have there been any code violations, other citations, anything like that on this property before?
We have discussed, Mr. Bennett is a contractor, and we have discussed with him what needs to be done in order to keep his home-based contracting business in compliance, and he's assured us that he does understand what he needs to do to keep his home-based business in compliance. He's got some storage of some items on his property right now, which he has indicated to me are not business-related items. They're storage of personal items outside. But he is aware that no equipment or materials associated with his business can be stored outside on his property, and that all the other home occupation standards must continue to be met.
Okay. Any other questions? All right, Mr. Bennett, anything you'd like to add to the application?
No, Matthew stated everything.
Okay.
Just the mess you saw in the pictures was all the contents from the shed was empty because we were in the process of moving that. That was what the breed-out was in those pictures that you saw there.
All right. Thank you, sir. At this time, then, we'll conduct a public hearing. Anyone present wishing to speak for or against the application, if you would, please come forward. And seeing none, we'll declare the public hearing closed and open the floor for any further discussions or motion.
If there's no discussion, I'll make a motion that we approve the application.
There are no staff comments on that, are there?
No recommended conditions? No.
Yeah, recommended conditions.
I'll second it.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, Mr. Bennett, that application has been approved. Next, we'll move on to application Z 12003 by Ms. Patty Spencer, requesting a special use permit in order to conduct a home occupation hair salon at her residence located at 920 Walton Lane. And this property is in a residential single-family RS-15 zone. Mr. Baum, if you'd review that one for us, please.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Chairman Rogers. As you mentioned, the subject property is at 920 Walton Lane. This is a small 4-lot subdivision called the DeJarnett Lane subdivision, which is just to the east of Bradford Place. Many of you may be familiar with the Bradford Place subdivision, which is on the north side of DeJarnett Lane. The DeJarnett Lane subdivision is 4 lots, 2 of which are flag lots, and at the end of Walton Lane, this is the Calvary Baptist Church property here. They actually have both of these tracts. So the subject property is on the very east side of this residential area, directly adjacent to the Calvary Baptist Church property. The church building is further to the south than what's on this photograph. But as I mentioned, this is a 4-lot subdivision. 920 Walton Lane is here, all the way at the eastern terminus of Walton Lane. There's a house behind it, and likewise, across the street there is a house and then a flag lot with another house behind it. Ms. Spencer would like to, has requested a special use permit in order to conduct a home occupation, a home-based hair salon from her residence at 920 Walton Lane. This home-based business request is in conjunction with a building project that she and her husband are wanting to undertake, a fairly substantial addition onto their house. And I'll show you some pictures. They've got some good renderings to kind of give you an idea of what that's proposed to look like. Here you'll see the existing house here. And the existing driveway stops right here. What they're looking to do is actually to add on a 3-car garage, and the 3-car garage would actually include a small work area for Ms. Spencer to conduct her home-based business. The driveway would also be added on to, and as shown on the plot plan, the addition would meet all setback requirements and would not need any variances. But as I mentioned, she is looking to conduct a home-based business that will generate traffic, and because it will generate traffic, it does require a special use permit from the Board of Zoning Appeals. Here is the garage addition. It's a 3-bay garage addition, and here is the work area, the salon area, and that will actually be connected to the house by a roofed covered patio and breezeway. Here's a close-up of the actual work area. You see there's a kind of a waiting area, reception area, and then the work area, and then a handicap bathroom as well. And it would be separate from the actual three-bay garage. Ms. Spencer plans on providing hairstyling, coloring, and waxing services. And she also will have a small line of products for sale as well, or some retail activity, but the retail activity will only be associated with her clients, which will be there by appointment only. There will be no walk-in customers that will be buying the products. The products will be sold only to her clients. And Ms. Spencer is volunteering that her hair salon the client visits will be by appointment only. The days of operation will be Monday through Thursday, and the hours of operation will be from 9 a.m. until 7 p.m. And she's indicated that the maximum number of appointments that she will have per day will be 6, and that she will leave a 15-minute interval in between appointments so that there is no more than one client there at a time. With the driveway addition, there appears to be ample room in the driveway to accommodate the customer parking, which should be very limited since there will only be one car there at a time. Some of the other standards that the zoning ordinance addresses for home-based business are that the home-based business not take up more than 25% of the dwelling. And this is actually, this will not take up more than 25% of the garage addition itself, so it falls far under that maximum square footage. It will actually only take up about 385 square feet of that garage addition. As I mentioned, the floor plan of the proposed salon will include a handicap bathroom, a work area, and a reception area. Ms. Spencer has indicated that she will have no employees. One of the things that the board typically likes to know about on applications like this is whether or not there will be a sign. In order to meet state of Tennessee licensure requirements, the state will require Ms. Spencer to have a sign, and the sign will need to be visible from the right-of-way. What Ms. Spencer proposes is to have a sign by her front door that indicates that her salon is at that location. Because the salon will actually be to the rear of her house, the garage addition will be to the rear of the house, and the front door of the salon will actually not be visible from the public right-of-way. So she plans on putting a sign no larger than 3 square feet, and she would like it to be made out of wood, but is open to whatever the board, whatever kind of materials or appearance of the sign that the board deems appropriate. If the board approves this request, staff recommends the following condition. The applicant shall not begin operation of the business until a certificate of occupancy has been issued by the Building and Codes Department. All client visits must be by appointment only, and there should be no overlapping appointments. There should be a maximum of 6 appointments per business day, and days and hours of operation will be as follows. And these are the days and hours of operation that Ms. Spencer has given in her application. Monday through Thursday, 9 a.m. until 7 p.m. Just to show you some photographs of the existing property and the existing house. This is the front of the house as it faces Walton Lane. This is the existing garage and driveway. The existing garage will actually be converted into living space. This is the rear of the house. The garage addition will actually be coming out of the back of this part of the house right here. And this is looking at the existing driveway, which will be extended further to the south on the property. And here's the driveway that leads back to the property behind the Spencer's property. This is looking where the garage addition will come out from the house. There's the existing deck. And another shot of the backyard. This is the house to the south. This is the side yard, and there's a stand of vegetation to the west of the applicant's property that kind of separates their property from Bradford Place. And this is further to the west. These are the backyards of the homes on Bradford Place. And these are the houses across the street from the applicant's property. Now, as I mentioned, there were some renderings submitted, and you each have color copies of these renderings. Here's the covered patio, which will connect the garage addition with the existing house. Another view. This is looking from the south at their proposed garage addition. You'll see here you'll have the 3-bay garage, and here is the salon right here. And there's some other photographs of the proposed addition that you may want to take a look at there at your desks. At any rate, Ms. Spencer is here in the audience if you have any questions for her, and I'll be available to answer any questions that you may have before or after the public hearing.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Blumley. Questions for Mr. Blumley? All right. Thank you. Ms. Spencer, anything you'd like to add to the application? Okay.
We do have some letters from our neighbors that are around us that wrote on our behalf to support us in our
Okay.
decisions and what we're like to do.
Yeah, if you can get those to us, we'd be glad to look at those and include those as part of the record here. I think the Burks are right across the street from you, aren't they?
Yes. And Susie are?
She'd back up to you on that side, right?
She's in Bradford.
Centennial Bridge is our neighbors, is kind of limited, but we know several of them, so we want to reach out as far as we could to anybody that could be affected.
Allenberg is actually over our 4 houses. It is
I tell you, I'm sorry. Can you, so we can get it on the record and everything, can you come to the podium? And
Alan Burke, our neighbor directly across the street, is the president of our association. Our association is just the 4 houses. So I have a letter from him and then the other 2 neighbors in Bradford Place in the back.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
All right, then at this time we'll go ahead and conduct a public hearing. Anyone present wishing to speak for or against the application, if you would please come forward. And seeing none, we'll declare the public hearing closed.
Mr. Blumley, I'm a little confused on the sign part. Is it saying that the state is saying it does need to be visible from the road or does not need to be visible from the road?
and it's my understanding from talking to someone at the state that it does need to be visible from the road.
Because have we not approved these in the past where I can remember maybe the sign being at the back door or the side door?
Well, I remember there was one that we approved a couple of years ago that was a corner lot. So the door to the salon was actually, it wasn't on the front of the house, but it was on the on the corner. So it was visible from the street, but not visible from what one would call the front of the house.
Right, okay. And going back to our last application, we don't have any issues with setbacks with respect to this proposed addition?
That's correct. It's been vetted for setback and lot coverage requirements because it is a pretty substantial addition, and we did get their surveyor to verify that they were going to be under the maximum lot coverage, and they are.
All right. Unless there are any further questions, then go ahead and consider a motion.
I'll make a motion we approve, subject to all staff comments.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, Ms. Spencer, you have your application. Thank you. And Matthew, let me give you back these, and we'll include those as part of the application.
Thank you.
All right, well, next consider application Z12004 by Mr. Lyle Lynch of Johnson & Bailey Architects for Murfreesboro City Schools, requesting a special use permit in order to expand an existing institutional group assembly use, which would be a big word for a public school, in a residential single-family RS-15 zone. And this is also known as Hopgood School, right, Matthew?
That's correct.
Okay, and this is for property located at 307 South Baird Lane. The applicant is seeking approval to construct a 5,347 square foot building addition to Hopgood School. All right, Mr. Blum, if you could review that application for us, please.
Thank you, Chairman Rogers. This is actually the first of two special use permit requests that we'll see for expansion at Hopgood. The next one will be a much more comprehensive redevelopment. I don't want to use the word redevelopment, but expansion of the facilities. But this first one is something that the Murfreesboro City Schools, a classroom expansion that they would like to have constructed and open in time for the next school year. They're looking to build a 5,347 square foot building addition, which will include 4 classrooms and a teacher work area. And you'll notice on the aerial photo, they have 2 wings along the north end of the school. The location of where they want to build the addition will be on the north side of this wing that's kind of the easternmost of the 2 northern wings. The school is situated closer to Jupiter and to Baird than it is to Mercury. Property is zoned RS-15. The fire station is along Mercury, and there are single-family residential uses to the north and to the east and west. As I mentioned, the classroom addition, you kind of see a little bit of boulder area here, which is where the classroom addition will be constructed. There's an existing driveway access off of Jupiter, a loop, and this will be adjacent to that loop, but it will not actually project out any further towards Jupiter Place than that existing wing that is adjacent to that loop. Because the property is zoned RS-15, a special use permit is required for any kind of expansion of an institutional group assembly use. And as Chairman Rogers noted, that's a fancy way of, in this case, saying a public elementary school. One of the things that I'll mention is we did not require a photometric lighting plan. There is no parking lot expansion planned with this special use permit. That will likely come with the next special use permit. This is just going to be a building addition. The only lighting that will be added will be security lighting mounted on the walls of the buildings. So we have waived the requirement for the photometric lighting plan, as it did not appear to be warranted. The existing building is 52,534 square feet. The 5,347 square foot expansion will bring the total square footage of the campus building up to 57,591 square feet. According to the plan submitted, the addition will be located approximately 120 to 130 feet off the front property line along Jupiter Place. And as you can imagine, because of the nature of this just being a smaller building addition, many of the additional standards for institutional group assembly uses are not really applicable in this situation. Before we open the public hearing, though, I'd like you to share with you some photographs. There's some existing playground equipment in front of the building. That playground equipment will have to be relocated, and I'll come back to that in just a moment. There's the existing driveway that comes in off of Jupiter Place. There's that existing wing that the proposed expansion of this wing will not come out any closer to Jupiter Place, as I mentioned earlier. This is the building that will be added onto right here, the wing that will be added onto. One of the things that I will mention, there's a handout that I've placed in front of each of you. This is from Mr. Lynch, the applicant. After he submitted his original application, he had mentioned that the play structure that was going to have to be relocated to make way for the addition to the school was going to be relocated adjacent to the other play structures. However, he has stated, and you can see on the attachment, that the play structure will actually be relocated closer to Baird Lane. We just wanted to make that clear, and so there was no confusion about where that play structure was going to be relocated. With that being said, I'll be happy to answer any questions. Mr. Lynch is in the audience today, and we also have Mr. Gary Anderson from City Schools here if you have any questions for him.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Blomley. Any questions for Mr. Blomley? All right. Thank you, sir. Mr. Lynch, anything you'd like to add? Or Mr. Anderson? All right. Thank you. Okay, then at this time we'll conduct a public hearing. Anyone present wishing to speak for or against the application, if you would please come forward. And seeing none, we'll declare the public hearing closed and open the floor for further discussions or motion.
If nothing further, Chairman, I would make a motion to approve the special use request.
A second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, Mr. Lynch, Mr. Anderson, that application has been approved. And we'll move on now to staff reports and other business.
I have done this afternoon.
All right. All right, unless there's any other business, then we're adjourned.